How long should a NAS actually last? You've gone out and spent some real hard-earned money on buying your own private data storage solution that you can access anywhere in the world, but you want to know how long this bloody thing's going to last for. Welcome to the Raid Room. It's me, Eddie the Web Guy here. As always, Raid Room videos. We've got no cuts. It is just us rabbiting to you. Thank you for listening. Ed, right now, before we even get to the minutiae, how long should a NAS actually last?
It depends what NAS we are looking at and what purpose you're using it for. If it's a simple file storage backup NAS, 10 years. If it's some video editing, something that a lot of people work on a daily basis and you're pushing it to the limits, probably 5 years.
Okay, controversial. We'll come back to that. Crack on.
So it's really based on a use case. Some of the use cases are really pushing those NASs very hard and it wears out the hardware. Also, sometimes you use the technologies that are growing very fast. Like in the past, it used to be transcoding when we moved from 720p, 1080p, 4K, and we kept on moving, and we had to refresh those NASs every 2 years in the past. That slowed down, but there are other things that do demand you to upgrade every 2 years, 5 years, or sometimes 10 years if there is nothing growing.
I mean, I think immediately, again, before I get on to what I've already thought about saying for this vid, like when you say 5 years, let's go right back to that 5-year statement there. Is that an industry and manufacturer expectation, or are you describing that's what consumers and businesses should have as a realistic expectation? Because I think there is a distinction, because I think no brand would ever release a NAS and say, you might get about 5 years out of this. Are you suggesting people in those more heavy-hitting industries should be thinking about refreshing every 5 years, and that's the mindset they should have? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, based on the industry, yeah, exactly. It's the hardware that you're using that will be just becoming very old. For example, in the business, 1 gigabit was the standard, and you didn't need much, computing power in this NAS to have 1 gigabit connection, 1 gigabit network. Then everyone moved to 2.5 gig, so you needed some faster CPU, or maybe security demands grew, so you need better encryption, so you need, again, better CPU. You can't wait 10 years for this new encryption to be working on the CPU. You need to upgrade the hardware. So there's always a game between hardware and the software. Sometimes software grows faster, sometimes hardware, but hardware always need to catch up with the software growth.
So you're not
It could be network, it could be moving simply from 1 gigabit to 10 gigabit and faster, because also there's your business is growing also, so it's not just 5 years. That's nothing to do with even manufacturer when they say 5 years. It's actually from your perspective. You start business with 2 people, 5 people, and in 5 years, your growth will be 10 people, 20 people. So you know this NAS is not going to be good enough anymore. But as today, this is all you need, because you don't want to invest also too much money unnecessary. You don't know if your business is going to grow, or you simply do not want to move your money and spend your money on things that can be spent later.
So again, I've got so much to say on this topic, but I feel like I really need to pull that apart. So you're not suggesting a kind of manufactured obsolescence, where a system is designed to last for a while and then fail, like when manufacturers release a product that's got 3 years of manufacturer's warranty, and they go, we will back you to the hilt in terms of hardware in 3 years, but if it dies in 3 years and a day, you're on your own, son. You're not suggesting that. You are saying that people that buy those more cutting edge or large scale solutions should be used to the idea that in 5 years' time, not only is it no longer cutting edge, that they're actually missing out upon that.
Yes.
Again, I'm not sure we're ever going to see eye to eye on that, because I don't feel quite the same. We might circle around to that in a bit.
Because regarding the hardware itself, yes, it should last 10 years, the hardware on its own, but the use case is a completely different subject.
Because the reason I've got these on the table is because now this is the Synology DS925 Plus. Boo, Synology hard drives. We can discuss that in the comments. And on the other side of the thing, we've got a QNAP here, the TVS872X. Now, the previous iteration to this, in the 82 series, they actually had quite a serious fault with their mobile on the back. It wasn't systemic. It wasn't by any means 100%, but it was noticeable enough numbers. If you do a quick Google, you see backplane and failures for this particular system there. Now, I'm positive QNAP did not manufacture it with that in mind, but clearly it wasn't standing up to the rigors of demand that was happening to it with the failures there. And when you're dealing with multiple drives feeding into a backplane, that can be absolutely suicidal in terms of drive failure. In the case, the reason I've got the Synology here on the table is Synology have been using the same architecture, the same within the DiskStation series, I think the same 3, maybe 4 CPUs for about 6 years at this point, where they've been releasing these solutions. But I would argue, more so than most NAS brands, they are the ones that have the most aggressive refresh cycle. Not how long between each refresh, but how much they are prepared to completely cut off the existence of the previous generation on their web pages, on a lot of their docs as well. Now, buying these solutions, if I buy a DS95 Plus, I would expect a decade out of this. And Synology actually have quite a good track record, if you look online, for low failures over time, being quite sustainable boxes. But because their hardware level is so low in most cases, I would argue some of these boxes feel obsolete in terms of hardware even shorter than 5 years from now. Now, are you suggesting that is by design by the brand, or is that just coincidence?
Oh, with Synology, they start taking advantage of the situation. I think they didn't want to refresh every 2 years. They didn't want to keep up with software change demands against hardware. So they discovered this AMD CPUs, and early days when they were manufactured, those AMD CPUs like Ryzen and things like that, they were made to last 10 years. So they got used to it, but now they might cross into an unknown territory, because it was okay to use the same CPU in the refresh models for the first 5 years, but at this point it is becoming a little bit more ridiculous, because if they keep on using the same CPU as today, they are not made to last another decade. They could last 10 years when they were released originally, those models, but that will make it 15 years, and I think it's going to be quite outdated system hardware.
But the reason I bring up Synology, and by the way, I am sort of referring to all brands, but I would argue in terms of turnkey NAS solutions, people that buy a NAS and have expectations about how long it will last. The reason I'm ragging more on Synology than most on this, and you're right to point out the CPU, because the Synology's refresh with regards to their software, because let's face it, they're a software company more than anything else. Yes, they release the hardware, but we know where their priorities are. But say the Intel Celeron J4125 CPU that they've been using now since 2020. It's the early stages of 2026. Isn't it going well out there? And it's the early stages of 2026, and they're still using that CPU that Intel themselves have turned their back on. Intel have moved into Alder Lake, into Twin Lake, in-series processors that everyone else is adopting but them. But the reason I bring it up is Synology have a page where they have their support. Either full support, limited support, or no more support. And at that point, because what happens is you have access to DSM, the version that you've got, then you might get access to sub-revisions. So DSM 7, you might get access to DSM 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. But the minute they get to DSM 8, more chat about that very soon, when it comes to those upgrades, systems at a certain age no longer get access to that latest update. But they've been using the same CPUs in these systems now for so long, I would love to understand how they will say, because they probably will try to, that a DS1621 Plus released in 2020 with the V1500B CPU, I'm available at short notice for parties, which has the same CPU, by the way, as this, released 5 years later.
Yes.
Are you telling me that both of those devices are going to have the same end-of-life software, or is one of them going to have 5 extra years? That's artificial AF. Now, there is the counter-argument that they have divisions of testing, divisions of QA, which are focusing very specifically on hardware architecture, and therefore one could argue they're obviously channeling that workflow more towards the more modern releases than the older releases. But I do think that is a argument filled with more holes than Swiss cheese, and I do think it is a question of intentional obsolescence in that scenario. I still think their solutions are made to last. But part of lasting for 10 years isn't just that it still switches on and off again. It is a question of it still getting updates, serviceable security updates and feature updates there. And that's where I think that 10 years figure, and particularly the 5 years figure you mentioned, is up for debate. I mean, yourself, do you think, when you mention the difference between a home user and a few small multimedia users and a business user, how long should a user who buys this NAS, the DS925, what do you think they should expect from this? Do you
They
think
should be expecting 10 years. If you buy this for home use, it should be with 10 years expectation. But as you rightly pointed, DS225 with that Celeron, I cannot tell you that it's going to last 10 years. It's not. As you said, it's already 5-6 years old CPU. I cannot see it working. I think that's actually strategy from Synology, to be honest, actually. I think they want this to happen. They want people to be fed up and not being happy with the hardware power anymore after 4-5 years. So I think they want to push people physically towards refreshing, upgrading their models earlier than even 5 years.
I mean, and again, I'm now going to hop over to the other side of the seesaw because we've got to be fair about this. Now, and again, I'm going to go on a tangent. Stick with me, everyone, including yourself. Don't run away. Don't click away. There aren't any. Oh, there might be ads. Who knows? I don't think I'm going to put ads on this one. I have got a boiler at home, right? Moving into my gaff, like midway through the teens. I got a boiler. It died when I was away at CES. I had a great time. Everyone loved me back home for that. My boiler died, right? Needed to get a new one put in. It cost, including installation, all the checks and everything, it cost just over £3,000. 3 bags of sand, £3,000. Now, a decade prior, I'd spent pretty much the same as that number a decade ago to get a boiler put in, get it all checked out, QA'd, QC'd, signed off, all the electrics done. About 3. I think it was like 2,800 and something, right? It's a very small difference over the course of a decade. I looked up that boiler after it had died because I felt bad. I was in a hotel room in Vegas and I felt like I'm not helping. There's, my family, my cat's like, oh, this isn't working. That guy over there, dickhead's enjoying margaritas. But my point is this. I looked it up online and that boiler had a kind of universal agreement online at this particular hot point, you're listening, boiler is about 10 years. They're designed to last about 10 years, and it died after about 10 years. It felt almost like I could have hourglassed that, and it was designed for that 10 years. And the price of the replacement was largely the same as before. So we, as consumers or businesses, the cost of some of these NAS devices, like this 4-bay, and I know it's a long tangent, thanks for coming back round and meeting me here at the end, is the same. Synology NAS solutions have been, at this profile, about 5 to 550 for more than a decade. But the hardware has seemingly improved by increments. It has improved by increments. So they've added ECC, they've added more capable processors, added 2.5 gig, added M.2s, and the prices remain the same. So I think we, at the very least, when we talk about a lifespan of a NAS product, we have to at least acknowledge that the price has remained largely the same for each of the profiles there. And to maintain that lifespan, I think we also have to acknowledge that we can't demand prices to remain the same, but still want the products to last. Like when people complain about cars from the 80s, oh, you just get an elastic band and hit it with a hammer and it will last forever. And now they don't. And TVs last 3 years, we know that. But I do think in terms of lifespan of some of these NAS products, there are going to be people that go, what, 10 years? That's nothing. 10 years is nothing. I want it to last forever. So I ask you again, this is switching over to not the consumer, but the business. When a business buys a solution that they are going to hammer for 5 years, and you're saying after 5 years they're going to upgrade, after 5 years it's not doing the job and they should look for upgrades, do you think it's better, or do you think there should be more expensive solutions that last longer, or the current status quo is serviceable?
There are more expensive solutions. You can always build your own solution if you want to have the latest technology in your NAS box. Otherwise, if it's just NAS that is consumer-based NAS, it will be expected to be refreshed all the time because that's the economy we are in. It's not 50 years ago when you buy a fridge and it's going to last you a lifetime. It's not anymore the case. Nowadays, products are made to break. They are made to break after 5 or 10 years. It's the economy just to keep it going. That's how it is. If you want something to last a lifetime, build your own thing. Otherwise, not. Or just at least buy a NAS that is very powerful, with very up-to-date hardware inside, and it's going to last you 10 or 20 years. It will.
Okay, well, I'm sure you've all got opinions on this as well. And a slightly longer raid room than usual. I hope you've enjoyed it. I look forward to discussing it with you guys in the comments. I think me and Eddie, I think we agree. I think we agree. Let us know. Maybe we'll have to run an AI over this and let us know. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the raid room. Cheers for joining us again, Eddie, and we'll see you next time.